Hello, I'm Jeremy,
And I'm Dan.
and this is episode 8 of the 1A Auto Talking Tune Show.
Welcome back.
Hello, hello. So this week we're going to cover some viewer questions, and we're probably going to play with these cars on a desk. The first question today is from Tom, who has a 2006 Mazda Miata, and he's wondering how to change the cabin air filter. And the good news is, it doesn't have one.
Yep. There's nothing on the vehicle to change, so you lucked out on this one. And
Yep.
at the same time, you got the convertible top.
Yeah, just put the top down.
Yeah. If you're worried about the little bit of dust coming from the vents, you might want to leave the roof up.
Yeah, exactly.
But-
Yeah, we've done a little research, and it turns out that there's just no cabin air filter on these apparently.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's an easy fix for you.
Yeah. Our next question comes from Sheldon. He's got a 96 Ford Explorer and wanted to know if they need to do an engine flush every time they change the oil. Unless you see any buildup under the valve covers, on the rockers or anything like that, it's not worth your time. If there is a gunk buildup, it is a good idea because it'll help kind of get rid of all that mess that's under there.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you'll need a little extra oil to kind of clear all of that out.
Right.
Because if you leave any in there, it will break down the oil quicker and cause more wear and tear on the engine.
Yeah.
So if it's not dirty in there, it's not gunked up, the oil looks okay, just skip it. Just do the oil, the filter, and be on your way.
Absolutely, that is what I would do. Next question is from Victor with a 2003 Honda Cross Tour, and he's wondering if he can add a factory-style backup mirror or backup camera to the mirror. And in this case, it's probably way too expensive and way too complicated to actually make happen.
Right. There's more to those systems than just the mirror. You have programming that has to be done to the body control modules. Depending on where the display is, they might have to reprogram the radio, if not replace the whole thing.
Right.
Even may not even have the wiring to do it.
Yeah.
So as a factory installed option, if you didn't get it from the factory, you're better off checking the aftermarket.
Yeah, there are some aftermarket options out there where it's just a backup camera that you can stick anywhere you want on your car, on your mirror or the back of the car, and it's a separate screen that attaches to your windshield, and it's just a totally external system from the car itself.
Yeah, no reprogramming anything, no special tools.
Right.
It's all a ready to go kind of package.
Right, so I would shop around for that if you're looking for a backup camera. That's going to be your cheapest and easiest method of doing this.
Definitely. So off to Jim with a 98 Chevy Suburban. Mentioned he has a rattle above the right forward headliner and wanted to figure out what it was.
Right.
For the most part, the only stuff that's really running up around there is antenna, if you got a roof mounted, so you have the cabling for that, and any wiring that you'll have for overhead lights, clearance lights up top. So most likely what's happened is one of the wires has either come untaped or unclipped from up top, and it's rattling between the metal and the headliner.
Right.
It's not that bad to fix once you get in there. The bigger problem is trying to get in there.
Yeah, getting the headliner down is always quite a challenge because there's a lot of trim that holds the headliner in. Sometimes you have to remove the seat belts, and there's
just overhead consoles and your lights.
There's just a lot of parts to take down to get that headliner out. And being a Suburban, it's a pretty big headliner.
Yeah, it's large.
so even once you disconnect it, getting it out of the vehicle is quite a challenge.
You'll need a couple bodies. It's not a difficult job to do. It's something you can definitely do at home. It's just going to be a very time consuming.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So you have to weigh out your options. Is fixing the rattle worth a full Saturday of work pulling trim panels off the interior?
Yeah. Not to mention possibly breaking clips.
Yes.
And those are not easy or fun to come by.
Yeah. It may be worth trying to get a automotive friend to do it for you and save yourself the hassle if you can pay them with food or something like that. that would be my bet.
Yeah, this is the time for cookouts. So
it is great weather for cookouts. Yeah, I would go that route for sure. Next question is from Ray with a 2003 Ford F-250 Super Duty. The HVAC blower speeds 2 and 3 are doing the same exact thing, and he's replaced the resistor and it didn't work. And he said, should I keep applying penetrating fluid?
We're hoping that was a joke. This is electrical.
Yeah, we're hoping that's a joke.
Yes, we're gonna keep that as a good sense of humor.
Yes, exactly. So we appreciate that. So what it comes down to is if you already replaced the resistor, it's probably the control head unit itself.
Right.
Because that's really the only other thing that controls the fan speed.
Right. Usually your blower resistor is what, if it goes bad, you lose certain speeds or all of them other than high.
Right.
Because it's bypassed at that point.
Yep.
But being that they replace that, and that's usually where you should start because it's the least expensive thing.
Yeah.
It's usually the easiest thing. Yeah.
Yep.
2 bolts and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And they're relatively easy to get a hold of.
Yep.
The control module is usually a little bit more expensive.
Yep.
And will require a little more work to pull out of the dash because you'll probably have to take off some trim panels and whatnot. But.
Yep. Yeah, you could always try a junkyard too, though. You could go walk around a junkyard, find a 2003 F250, figure out how it all comes apart, so you don't have to accidentally break your own.
Yeah.
And maybe even get the part for dirt cheap,
right.
Used, because it's sort of a risk you take, but a lot of junkyards give you a 60-day warranty on the part.
Mm-hmm.
So you may get it for pennies on the dollar,
yep.
and figure out how to not break your own dashboard when you're taking it
right.
apart.
So you're getting a learning experience for cheap money.
Exactly. So yeah, try that out.
So our next question, anonymous, unfortunately, we didn't get your name, is 06 Chevy Trailblazer with the 5.3,
mm-hmm.
and they're wondering how to change the oil pump.
Yes, we're both familiar with these engines.
Yes, the 4.8, the 5.3, the 6.0, the 5.7, they're all very much the same family, and
mm-hmm.
the job is very similar. Will require that you take off the harmonic balancer, which is going to be the trickiest part of this.
Mm-hmm.
GM was nice enough to install that center bolt with Loctite on it at about 250 foot-pounds, which is a lot of pressure on there.
Yeah, it is the most pressure that you've ever felt, ever, probably.
Yeah.
On a bolt, you won't get one tighter than that.
Nope. Yeah. So once you get that free, you will have to pull off the harmonic balancer.
Yep.
You'll have to pull off the water pump because it's in front of the timing cover.
Mm-hmm.
From there, take off the timing cover, and the pump will be sitting right at the bottom, right on the crankshaft.
Right.
Unbolts, there will be a little pickup that you'll have to unbolt as well, but
mm-hmm.
just turn it back around, swap it, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time that you spend on the job is getting that bolt out of the harmonic balancer, I think.
Yes.
That's gonna be 50% of the time probably that you spend on this project.
I almost flipped an engine off a stand trying to do it myself.
Yeah.
They are tricky.
It gets quite tricky.
Yes.
There are some tricks online to getting those bolts loose. I would encourage you to investigate those tricks,
right.
but obviously do it carefully.
Yeah, GM does actually have a special tool to hold the flywheel in place.
Yes.
But it's about $100. It's for a one-time use. It's kind of expensive. If you can try and get away without it, go for it. If after a weekend of fighting it, you've given up, it may be time to do it, and then just resell it on eBay.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Next question is from a guy named Jim, 2001 BMW 740iL. And he wants to know if it's necessary to have a jumper pack to change the battery. And I personally have never done it this way, but it really does make a lot of sense to have that jumper pack, because then you don't use your radio settings, your security settings, all of those things, which I'm sure BMW has.
Yeah, exactly. Having done many batteries and unfortunately had a couple screw-ups, no matter what the vehicle is now, I will always use either a jump pack to maintain the charge, or they actually sell specialty tools that will plug into your cigarette lighter and plugs in a 9-volt. And that just maintains just enough juice so all the computer systems in the car are maintained for that 5-10 minutes it's going to take you to do the battery. Your alarm won't go off. You won't have to go to the dealer to get your radio reprogrammed. Yes. And if the vehicle's used and you didn't know there was an alarm in there, it's not going to go off, which that has happened countless amount of times.
Right.
People buying a car secondhand, not knowing there's an alarm, and now we can't start the car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things get really complicated really fast if you do lose a lot of those settings and you don't have them saved somewhere.
Right.
It's quite a nightmare. So we would definitely recommend.
Definitely, it's better safe than sorry on this one.
Yep, absolutely.
So this one comes from Fernando with the 2001 Chevy Silverado 1500. Mentioned he's been having an issue with the rear axle, and he's getting some scraping sounds when he accelerates, and wants to know what it could be. This one I'd start off doing a visual. Check to see there's a stamped steel backing plate usually behind your brakes to kind of keep dust and debris out of there. Sometimes they get bent from hitting stuff, from road debris. Just check to make sure it's not rubbing on the back of the rotor.
Right.
Then check to see if your caliper is sliding correctly. If you have disc brakes, if you have drums, you could have an issue inside there, but broken spring, but you would definitely notice more of the problem with stopping than the noise.
Yeah, definitely. And you can always like jack up one wheel at a time in the back of the truck, obviously with the engine off and everything, and just spin it by hand and see if you can hear that scraping noise, because like Dan said, a lot of the time it is like just a backing plate rubbing against a rotor or a drum or something like that, which is really common because the backing plates always rust.
Yep.
They see the worst of the worst driving environments of the snow and salt and road debris.
And they're not getting cleaned like everything else.
Yeah, they're not getting washed when you wax your car.
Yeah.
So backing plate is really common on those. But I mean, it really could be all sorts of things. So yeah, I'd start by jacking up the car, spinning the wheels by hand, and just kind of doing a visual check of things scraping, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Should be a pretty easy one to fix, as long as you can find that sound without the car driving down the road. It should be pretty easy to narrow down. Next question is from a guy named Manuel, 2006 Saturn Ion. How do I know if my catalytic converter is bad? This is a good one. A lot of the time you'll get a check engine light and a code of P0420.
Yep.
Which is just the catalytic converter efficiency is lower than usual,
right,
or lower than it's out of spec, basically.
Right. And it's really commonly misdiagnosed as a bad cat.
Yep.
But more often than not, it's actually the oxygen sensor that's gone bad.
Mm-hmm.
If you did have a bad cat, you typically have it might smell like rotten eggs under the car.
Yes.
Or
I mean, or the catalytic converter could be getting overly hot. And it could be glowing underneath the car. If you look at it at night and see the catalytic converter is glowing red,
it's clogged.
You have some issues.
Right.
Yeah. So it could be clogged, or your engine could just be dumping raw fuel down the exhaust for some sort of mechanical or electronic reason.
Yep.
So yeah, it could be kind of a plethora of things.
But if it's driving fine, the engine's not choking, usually what will happen is that car will just pull back. It'll lose all its power because it's literally choking. It's getting air in, but it can't push it back out.
Yeah, it feels like your brakes are on when you're driving it.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's not doing that, chances are it's probably just your O2 sensor.
Yep.
And it's safe to drive. You won't pass inspection in states that do go by the check engine light.
Yep.
But it's a much simpler job to do, much cheaper, and you'll be fine to drive it as is.
Absolutely.
Our next one comes from Michael. He's got a 2001 Buick LeSabre. Mentioned he turned on the temperature controls. Now it's warm out. The driver's side blows nice and cold, but the passenger side doesn't.
Right.
On this vehicle, they happen to have a dual climate control system, and that means there's a lot of little motors moving different things for the different driver and passenger seats. So you'll typically have a vent door, actuator, temperature controls. On this one, this sounds like you have a temperature door actuator issue, because one temperature is moving up and down on one side and not on the other.
Right.
These are usually a little packed in there. It's again kind of one of those things where it's an easy job to do when you get to the part.
Yeah.
It's just going to be quite laborious to get to it. You'll have to take apart a lot of the dash to reach into these, and there's a lot of them that look a lot alike. So getting the part will be easy. Once you have it in hand, you'll know which one to do.
Yep. Yeah, and it could be the actuator itself, or maybe the door is stuck for some reason.
Yeah.
It's possible that a mouse or a chipmunk moved in and made a nice little nest in there, or
Yep,
something
you got
crazy
that
like
too.
that. Or maybe the door actuator is stuck for some other reason. So it could be the actuator itself, or it could be the actual door that swings open and closed inside the heater box. So I mean, if you can figure out which one is the temperature door, then you can kind of go from there and figure out if it's the actuator itself or if it's the door.
Yep.
So those are the things to check out. But first step, hop onto your dash and try and figure out which temperature door it is.
Yeah, have somebody like adjust the controls with your head underneath and listen for a motor to move.
Yeah. Yeah, you can put your finger on the different actuators and you can feel them actually like moving, because it's just gears inside that are spinning.
Yep.
So it's pretty easy to tell. Last question for today is Danny, 1998 Chevy Cavalier. He changed his thermostat and it still is getting too hot. So I would start by making sure it is full of antifreeze, because sometimes you'll change your thermostat and It has a big air pocket inside it, so there's like sometimes on some cars there's like a bleeding procedure that you have to go through to let all the air out, and then
definitely the place to start. If there's air in the system, it's not circulating the coolant correctly, and you'll get really big hot spots.
Exactly.
And if one of those hot spots is where your sensor is, your gauge is going to go right up.
Yeah, even though your engine itself is probably a normal temperature, the temperature gauge is reading off the charts. So that's certainly a great place to start, is figure out if there is air in the system. Some cars do have some crazy procedures where you have to jack up the front of the car and open up a little air valve and things like that. So check for that. There's also a chance that your fans aren't turning on. So make sure your fans are turning on. Keep your hands away from them because they're obviously quite dangerous. And then it could just be a clogged up radiator. This happens. Yeah,
on these cars they use what's called Dexcool, and unfortunately over time with air they can clog up and get really gunked up and stop coolant from flowing and just clog the radiator completely. So definitely want to, like, if you are noticing that's something to have flushed out and get that cleared out of the system.
Yeah, sometimes you can feel the upper and lower radiator hoses once the engine is up to temperature, and if you feel the upper and lower radiator hoses, there should be some temperature difference in there, but you're going to notice that one is hot, one is cold. If it's really cold, then your radiator is completely blocked because the coolant is actually not flowing through the radiator. It's just sitting there. And there are shops that will flush your radiator out. So as long as your radiator doesn't have any holes in it, you can always just have it flushed out and reuse it. Or of course you could just buy a new radiator. But that wouldn't be where I would start. I would start with the air pockets and the cooling fans, and then probably go the radiator route if those two things don't pan out.
I agree.
So, last thing on our list is we got some Matchbox cars today.
We raided one of our coworkers' desks, so
we stole them off a coworker's desk. And our question for today is, if you could have one of these in real life, but you can't sell it, and you have to drive it year-round in New England, which car are you going to go with?
Right. So we got quite the assortment here.
Yeah, we got the '67 Chevelle, we got a FD RX-7, we got a Ferrari LaFerrari, '94 M3, Dune Buggy Volkswagen, and a Daytona.
Now, so which one are you going with?
I'm really struggling with this one because I feel like if I drove a Daytona year round, I would definitely get beat up.
Yes.
Somebody would punch me really hard for driving that in the snow.
Right.
The M3,
but think of the ground clearance you have with that. Like,
that's true, and it probably goes through the snow pretty well with the pointy nose.
Right. It just doesn't turn through snow or through dry or through rain or through anything else.
Exactly. I would have to go 120 miles an hour for it to work.
Yeah.
The M3 probably makes the most sense, but I actually think I'm going to go with the Volkswagen because I feel like the fun factor year-round is there. I mean, it has a roof that opens. It's air-cooled. Yeah. It's not going to have heat in the winter.
No, it's not.
But
there's nothing to it. There's no. I mean, it's not going to be comfortable at all. Like
all around though, there's a lot of fun to be had in a dune buggy.
See, I'm going to have to probably go myself with the M3. Most reserved out of all of them. So you're not going to attract any hate like you would with the Daytona or a LaFerrari.
Right. This is true.
If I hit a snowbank with that one, it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg, and I can get parts.
Parts are definitely available.
Parts available.
Right. You can drive it for 200,000 miles.
It'll keep going.
Because it's just going to keep working, because that's what BMW engines do.
And it's meant to, it's a driver's car. It's meant to drive in all situations, not just straight lines.
Yeah, but I could
the track.
I could take mine in the dunes.
Yeah, but that's it. Like, that's the only place it's going to be any good.
That's all I want to do.
You just could get stuck. And the engine's in the back, so,
See?
I don't know.
You're convinced on the Volkswagen, I know.
No, I'm still going M3. Although the LaFerrari would be interesting, and it's hybrid, so it's good for the environment.
This is true.
I don't think it's got any clearance to get over any kind of snowbank whatsoever. I would not get into my driveway.
Yeah.
I would not get out of my driveway. I don't know how the visibility would be either.
Yeah, it would be a rough time driving that in the snow.
Yeah.
So, which one are you going to pick? Is there a better one for us out there? Is something better than the M3 or the Volkswagen?
Is there any love for the Mazda?
Yeah, the Mazda or the Chevelle. Are you going to drive a Chevelle, maybe even a big block in the winter? Would you feel bad? You might. I don't know. So that's episode 8 of the 1A Auto Talking Tune Show. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and of course share this video if you like it. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.